Thank you for joining us for the virtual public meetings for the re-release of the Upper Barataria, Louisiana Draft Integrated Feasibility Study with Environmental Impact Statement. We will get started in a few minutes. Please note that all callers will be kept on mute throughout the meeting. If you have a question or would like to submit a comment, you may enter one into the chat on WebEx or the Facebook stream. You may also send us a text message or voicemail to 318-467-8350 or by email to capital U, lowercase p-p-e-r, capital B, lowercase a-r-a-t-a-r-i-a, capital F, capital S, at usace.army.mil. We may not be able to answer all of the questions submitted through that chat today, as we are still working on the final report. If a question is asked that we cannot answer today, it will be included in the final report as an official comment. Additionally, written comments may be mailed to capital U, period, capital S, period, Army Corps of Engineers, New Orleans District. Copy Danielle A. Keller. Capital C, capital E, capital M, capital V, capital N, dash, capital P, capital M, dash, capital B, 7400 Leek Ave, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70118. We will have the contact information on the last slide and pause there so you may write it down. Comments will be accepted through January 25th, 2021, and will be included in the final report. Once again, thank you for joining us, and we will begin shortly. My name is Danielle Keller. I am a project manager for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in New Orleans. I am the lead for this project team and the point of contact for the public. After I walk you through our study process, we will be hearing from Dr. Matthew Boland, our lead plan formulator. Other team members, including engineers and economists, are standing by to answer questions during this presentation. We are about 2 years into a 3-year process. We are actively engaged with our non-federal sponsor, the Louisiana Coastal Protection and Restoration Authority, as well as our local officials and stakeholders across the study area. We have received a great deal of information from these entities and acknowledge their work designing and constructing portions of this levee system. We are appreciative of all of their input into this ongoing effort. The key to this meeting is to gather input on our revised Tentatively Selected Plan, or TSP, that was developed during feasibility level of design over the last 6 months. This dialogue will help us develop a more thorough and cohesive final feasibility report, and ultimately the Chief's report that will be signed in October 2021. We look forward to your input on our revised levee alignment. Quick agenda for review. I will be discussing with you the purpose of this meeting, the authority, ongoing coordination, and overall schedule for the study. Then Matthew Boland, our lead plan formulator, will walk you through our feasibility level of design, process, and the methods that determined our recommended plan and revised levee system. We are here to let you know that the Corps is completing a study to reduce flooding impacts to the Upper Barataria Basin through a structural alignment constructed to a 1% AEP, the 100-year future design, and totaling a little over 30.6 miles in length from Lulling to Raceland. We have held public and stakeholder meetings from the start of the study in 2018 to keep communication open and transparent. We have held the pre-scoping meetings, scoping meetings, and draft report meetings over the last 2 years. These meetings were aimed at updating the public on our progress since you last heard from us, while gaining input from the public. We hope you will have a chance to read our current draft report, which can be found on the UBB website, and make comments by January 25th. When we talk about creating or starting a project, the Corps needs 2 things from Congress. First, we need the authority. That is essentially permission to start a project or look at a concern. The UBB feasibility study was federally authorized through a House of Representatives resolution in 1998. The second thing that the Corps needs from Congress before we do any work is appropriations or funding. Our funding came through the Bipartisan Budget Act of 2018, which limited our study to measures for flood risk management, so we didn't look at or consider most of the authorized purposes like wetland restoration. This study is fully federally funded, and we are held to a $3 million budget by Congress. Again, our non-federal sponsor is CPRA, and they have provided support for engineering and stakeholder management. They also provided us with the UBB numerical models. We are so appreciative of their engagement throughout this process. This study is part of the planning process called SMART planning, or 3x3x3, where we are held to complete the study in 3 years with $3 million and with 3 levels of vertical integration. While time and cost are self-explanatory, 3 levels of vertical integration may not be. What this means is that when you are calling me at the New Orleans district, I am then talking to our division office in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and they are talking to the headquarters office in Washington, D.C. We are in continual conversation with our vertical chain, with at least quarterly briefings so that they are engaged in between all of the milestones of the study. We work as a team so that there are no surprises at the end of the study, and it should be a seamless process to get this study through the 3-year process and end up with the final recommendation for consideration by Congress for potential construction, approval, and funding. I am now going to discuss our study timeline so that you can get a better idea of where we are in our 3-year schedule. Early on in the study, we looked at various ideas and ultimately determined a comprehensive levee system was the best way to manage flood risk within the study area. We presented the plan as the TSP in October 2019. Since that time, we have held our agency decision milestone in March of 2020 and completed feasibility level design on our tentatively selected plan, which resulted in some considerable changes to the alignment and impacts. And that is why we're here with you today. Before we sent out the second draft, we completed several internal, technical, and quality control reviews, and now we are having the documents reviewed by the public, outside sources, known as the Agency Technical Review, and a policy review. When the public review ends on the 25th of January, we will be addressing comments and sending the report to our Office of Counsel before our final report leaves the district this March. Then, after several months of Washington-level reviews, we will have our Chief's report, the final product, signed in October 2021. Hopefully that gives you a good idea of what we have accomplished so far and what work we have remaining. I will now hand it over to Dr. Matthew Bolin, our lead plan formulator for the project.
Thanks, Danielle, and thanks everybody for joining us on the call today. My name is Dr. Matthew Bolin. I'm the lead plan formulator on the Upper Barataria Feasibility Project. About a year ago, the project delivery team came out with a draft report. Since then, we've had many changes during the feasibility design of the project, and we felt that we needed to go back out to the public to announce these changes in the project description. Alright, the study area hasn't changed between draft releases and still includes the communities of Ascension, Assumption, Jefferson, Lafourche, St. Charles, St. James, and St. John the Baptist. The study area is bound to the north and the east by the Mississippi River Levee and to the west by Bayou Lafourche. And at the south it extends just past Highway 90. The study area covers approximately 800 square miles and is characterized by low, flat terrain with wetlands, numerous navigational canals, drainage canals, and natural bayous that drain into Lake Salvador and eventually into the Gulf of Mexico. As a recap of the draft report, the project delivery team developed a total of 10 alternatives, not including the no action option. These alternatives consisted of structural and non-structural measures and combinations thereof. Some examples of structural measures was the incorporation of ring levees, flood walls, flood gates, and pump stations. Some examples of non-structural measures were house raisings, dry proofing of non-residential structures, and buyouts. After a few iterations of the formulation process, Alternative 1 was determined as the tentatively selected plan, or TSP, with the highest net benefit and benefit to cost ratio above unity. The first draft report release proposed Alternative 1 as the tentatively selected plan. It was an 18.3 mile levee proposed, which was the red line in the image, and it extends out from the St. Charles levee, which is the light brown line in the image, extending from the Mississippi River levee down to just south of Paradise. Then it raises the existing Sunset levee, crosses the bayou just south of Dufresne Ponds, and continues parallel to US Highway 90 until it reaches high ground near Matthews. It was proposed as a 7.5 foot elevation levee with a total cost of $514 million and a benefit to cost ratio of 1.5. This levee would have been built as a 2% AEP levee, but would provide much more like a 100-year level of risk reduction based on the optimization of storage and allowable overtopping rates in the area where structures would not be affected. In order to maintain the resiliency during overtopping, the backside of the new proposed levee and the entire existing St. Charles levee would have been covered with HPTRM, which is high performance turf reinforcement matting, to prevent the backside of the levees from being eroded during overtopping. This is a recap of the tentatively selected plan for the first draft report. We proposed an 18.3 mile levee extending out from the existing St. Charles levee system. The existing St. Charles levee resides at a 7.5 foot elevation. The length of 18.3 does not include armoring of the St. Charles levee. We plan on armoring the whole backside of the system to allow for the overtopping of water into areas where there wouldn't be structures damaged. The total footprint of direct impacts on this alternative were 345 acres. This alternative would be built to a 2% AEP, but would perform much more like a 1% AEP with optimization of the levee elevations and the rate of overtopping in those areas. There was no non-structural plan developed at the time. We were still waiting on H&H modeling results at that time to put out that information. With the current plan, we do have that now. The total estimated cost of this plan was $514 million. The benefit to cost ratio was a 1.5, and the average annual net benefits were somewhere around 30.3 million. As you'll see in this section, the feasibility design significantly transformed the tentatively selected plan. Therefore, it was indeed recommended that the second draft go back out for public review. As we mentioned a little earlier, the H&H with project modeling had not been completed up to this point in the study. As soon as the with project modeling was completed, the PDT determined the 7.5 foot elevations would not be sufficient in order to withstand the significant overtopping rates. The levee elevations had to be increased significantly. To be a complete system across the basin, the existing St. Charles levee also had to be elevated to reduce the risk of flooding and to address deficiencies along the existing system. At this point in the study, our BCR dropped below 1.0. But we looked back into the H&H modeling, the PDT got together, and we found some more without project damages. With some adjustments to the existing levees and to the model, there was a significant increase in the damages prevented, and that came out to be around $2 billion of project that we could support. The optimized Upper Barataria Basin second draft tentatively selected plan is a structural alignment constructed to the 1% AEP, which is the same thing as the 100-year future design, totaling a little over 30.6 miles in length. The complete system starts at Luling, where it connects to the Mississippi River levee. Continuing south, the TSP improves upon and updates the deficiencies in the St. Charles Parish levee, then crosses Bayou des Almonds with a 270-foot barge gate structure, and continues parallel to US Highway 90 before it ties into high ground across the basin near Matthews and Raceland. This levee has been designed to the HISTRA specifications with 1-on-4 and 10-foot crowns for all levee sections. The first lifts of this levee will occur in 2026 and will be expected to be in the range of 16 to 18.5 feet in elevation over the 50-year period of analysis. Based on the current hydraulic surge modeling, the 1% AEP design could increase water surface elevation in areas immediately outside the risk reduction system during events without project conditions. The induced flooding risk is greatest in the community of Bayou Gauche. Due to the presence of existing local flood risk reduction measures in Gaines and Matthews, the extent of induced flooding risk in those communities is more uncertain. In order to prevent increased risk to people and structures which are already located in high-risk areas, a preliminary non-structural compensation plan has been developed as part of the TSP. Mitigation options such as flowage easements, structure raising, dry flood proofing of structures, and acquisitions, which are buyouts, were all reviewed, but due to the vast scope of this project and the limited amount of available information at the time, a worst case scenario, which is the most expensive option, was assumed, which is acquisitions and buyouts of structures. These structures include 270 residential structures and 5 non-residential structures in the impacted areas, as you see in the red circles. The potential induced damages and mitigation for economic damages would be further addressed during PED. And finally, an individual investigation and mitigation for each structure, if appropriate, will be done during PED. Our optimized TSP from the second draft report is now a total of 30.6 miles with improvements to 12.3 miles of the existing St. Charles levee. The elevation of the levee ranges from 16 to 18.5 foot in elevation. We're still holding on to that 1% AEP, so it will provide the 100-year level of risk reduction without armoring. The impacts have significantly raised. They went from in the 300s to 1,074 acres total. And those are direct impacts, the actual footprint of the levee itself. As we stated in previous slides, 275 structures are outside the system. 270 of those are residential and 5 of them are commercial. The total project cost is now estimated at $1.9 billion, having a BCR of 1.3 and an average net benefit of $90 million. This draft feasibility report is compliant with the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA. We have initiated consultation under the Section 106 and have been developing the programmatic agreement to fulfill the responsibilities during the pre-construction engineering and design phase of the project, which is also known as PED phase. We have been coordinating with the federal agencies on the threatened and endangered species in the area. As it comes to material borrow, there are many available borrow sources along the basin's edge, primarily farmland. Mitigation plans have been established in the main report. You can find that in the report's appendices. Another thing to note with the 270-foot barge gate, this barge gate will stay open until it's triggered to close during a coastal storm event. And from the last session, we still believe the structure will not impede any recreational or commercial boat traffic in the area. So now I'm going to go ahead and hand it back over to Danielle Keller. Thank you all very much.
Here you can see the milestones that have been completed so far and the milestones that we have remaining. Our second draft report was released for a 45-day public review on December 11th and will be ending on January 25th, 2021. After we incorporate the public, agency technical, and policy comments into our final report, we will submit it to our division office in Vicksburg, Mississippi in March of 2021. In April 2021, they will then submit the final report package to headquarters, where several months of Washington-level reviews will occur. After the final feasibility study report is submitted to headquarters, a chief's report is developed and staffed through the appropriate headquarters offices. Once the Chief of Engineers signs the report, signifying the approval of the project recommendation, the Chief of Staff signs the notification letters. The signed Chief's report is then returned to the Regional Integration Team, which prepares the final package for the Office of the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works, which will occur in October 2021. Updates to the project website will occur throughout the planning process, so please tune in to our website. Additionally, if you would like to provide comments or feedback, you could do so through the website. Copies of the presentation will be on the project website, and videos of the meetings will be posted on our district's YouTube channel within the next few days. Once the meetings end, we will continue to accept comments on the Facebook stream by text message or voicemail to 318-467-8350 and by email to upperbaratariafs@usace.army.mil or mvnenvironmental@usace.army.mil. Additionally, written comments may be mailed to U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, New Orleans District. Comments will be accepted through January 25th and will be included in the final report. Thank you so much for joining us. This concludes our public meeting. We will remain on the line for approximately 30 minutes to continue to receive comments.